chat, or you can raise hands. Once we are hear from the speaker, we'll go forward with the question from the audience. Over to you, sir, to set the pace for the session.
Thanks, Archana. So I'd like this to be as interactive as possible, and that means I'll ask you questions quite regularly. So what I really need is 2 or 3 case studies that I can use with reference that are a little bit different to each other. So look, you had a little bit of a background. I'm not a clinical doctor, by the way, and I'm not a doctor yet. Hopefully someday somebody will find me worthy enough to have earned that. So please don't treat me like a doctor. My wife and kids definitely don't teach me even as a sir, so it doesn't matter. So look, anything goes. Any questions fair? The idea of this session is to help you so that an hour from now, you guys are better than you were an hour ago. And that's the logic. So if you feel that you've found this useful, that's great. That means I've been of value. If you think you're here to listen to some ostentatious, super successful person, then please go find another room, because that's not really the intent of this session. The intent, what I plan to cover, is a combination of 3 discrete topics. They are interconnected, but let me explain why they are going to be dealt with first discretely and then in an interconnected manner. So these 3 are specific to challenges that we have faced in health digital, in med tech, in medical services, and a number of other digital health, or what I would call health IT companies that I have been involved with on the board, helped start, helped exit, and in 1 or 2 cases even helped close, not necessarily successfully. The 3 buckets are clearly pricing. What is pricing? It's a combination of understanding what your unit economics are, and it's also understanding what the market acceptability is and what the market early proof is. So the concept of a beta customer, and then how do you move from a beta early customer into something late. I would ideally like a services company, and I would like a product company. And if any of you are medtech, one medtech company is also fine. So if you could just post on the chat, so please enable the chat, the nature of your company, and I will choose 2 or 3 of those examples. The second bucket I want to talk a little bit about is scaling. And what do I mean by scaling is, look, healthcare, unlike say most e-commerce kind companies or SaaS companies, don't necessarily follow a hockey stick effect. We are a little bit different. We kind of like take fairly large gestation periods to get to know customers so that people trust the customers. And then it takes a fair bit more time to move from what I would call tier C customers to tier B customers to tier A customers to what then becomes a gold standard. And how do you then scale from, let's say, geography 1 to geography 2, or not just geographies, but also internationally. One sec, let me just pull up this little chat window, because otherwise it will irritate me for quite a bit. Okay. And the third bucket that I'm going to cover is around alliances. So how do you build alliances? What are the alliances you should seek? And how perhaps, so a little bit of the who you choose and how you partner, and where you should partner and where you should not partner. So I'm going to try and cover those 3 buckets. So I've got some interesting question all the way from property tech, interesting, all the way to COVID and Mehta hospitals and biopharma. Okay, cool. Let's pick a combination of things. So let me do the easiest question. Are COVID cases treated at Dr. Mehta's? Yes, they are treated at an emergency basis at both our units, but they are treated inpatient only in our new unit, which is Tirverkadu. And the reason for that is we have found our clinical outcomes tend to be better focused. Our customers feel safer. Our clinicians feel safer when they go to a unit where they know they've got cases and they have to worry about it a little bit more that they've got COVID. But the number of COVID cases that we're seeing are very few. This novel COVID air purifier, this question has come up 3-4 times. And honestly, I don't think there's a straight answer for that, because there have been a couple of IMA hospitals that have showcased these air purifiers, but it looks like they're half bogus. Many of them haven't proven their validity. And if you look at it from the major players in the ecosystem, whether they are going to validate, most of them are not validating that technology. So the concept of a air purifier, when COVID is already coming down, I'm not sure has a huge product market. So that's an easy question to kind of like answer. At the moment, look, COVID, we're seeing about 10 to 15 cases in most major hospitals in the city. It doesn't mean COVID is gone. In fact, I lost a family member last week. I just discharged 2 from my hospitals, and none of them had taken the vaccine. So the bottom line is go get the vaccine. Number 2 is if you have kids, seriously go and ask your pediatrician what vaccine they can take as quickly as possible. And number 3, continue to wear masks. Continue to be sensible. Avoid large gatherings unless it's like a close contact. You can always go and wish a person for their wedding after the wedding or before the wedding. You can always go to a person's major function before or after to spend one-on-one quality time. That's what I'm doing. Very few, rarely. So I don't think COVID is gone. I think you have to learn to live with COVID. But in India, COVID is going to be a riskier prospect for the next few months rather than perhaps for the next few years. We will figure out a better way to live in the next few years. At the moment, we just want our freedom. We want to get out. We want to party, celebrate, hang out with friends. And the harsh reality is on a probability of 1 into 100, at the moment, some 1 into 100 or 1 into 1,000, you're at risk. And if you feel you're lucky, that's perfectly fine. If you feel comfortable doing it, perfectly fine. You may not get attention from guys like Muthu and me unless it's in a controlled environment like in our offices, for example. Okay, so let me pick some companies. So I've got a generic one. How should an early stage startup arrive at pricing? So let me actually do a little bit of a talk on how I should, the systems approach to the 3 problems I talked about. Archana, if you could give me basically 7 minutes on each of these, and then either prod me in the chat or figure out some way of just sending me a message, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll do that.
So
yes,
7 minutes on each. So basically, 21 minutes from now, you should basically tell me, shut up, please.
Yes. Yes, sir. I'll just.
So let's do pricing first. Look, the way you do pricing is you need to understand what is your product, and there is always a cost to a service or a product that you put out there. There is an early cost. There is a steady state cost. Normally, the early cost is a bit higher than the steady state cost. And normally, there is a cost that includes a higher overhead margin once you have stronger infrastructure, professional manufacturing, standards, quality, accreditation, chappas, whatever you want to call it. Therefore, you have 3 types of pricing. The first one, cost is high. The second one, cost is a bit lower. The third one, cost is very high. Understand these 3, please. You will have plus or minus, even if you're 20% right or wrong between these 3 costs, it's perfectly fine. But you should know it within 20%. And then you're fine tuning it like a screw. When you start with a screw, the screw wobbles. As you tighten the screw, it is firmly in place. And in the last few, whether it's fully tight or partially tight, it doesn't really matter for the screw to serve its purpose of holding whatever it is to the surface you're trying to screw it into. Okay? The more important thing with cost, though, is then understanding your price that comes on top of it. Now, there are different types of price. There's people talk about cost plus. So let me use this pen. The cost of making this pen is the pen, right? I want to sell the pen at a premium. I have distribution channels. I'm hiring sales agents. I have a whole bunch of other features that are part of not marginal cost, but your total cost, right? Your company infrastructure, corporate overhead, whatever you want to call it. And that is both of these. So you may have this cost or the refill cost, which is actually the useful piece of the pen. Then you have to put it into nice packaging. You have to give a nice salesperson, somebody who's intelligent or really has a fantastic hairstyle like me, and then put them on the marketplace. We're expensive, right, as salespeople. I mean, you're having to pay for every strand of hair that I lost. So from that point of view, so understanding your cost with infrastructure is important. The next piece is you have value to a customer, right? And that is how much the customer perceives the benefit of your product, and that is value-based pricing. And that is normally cost, but forget about the cost. It is based on the customer backwards, meaning that I look at what the customer's substitution cost of that service is. So the customer in the oil industry where I worked for a while, it used to cost about uh, $1 million per ton of nutmeg. And you are there scratching your head thinking, is nutmeg really that expensive? And frankly, nutmeg is not that expensive. But why is it expensive in the oil field is because nutmeg with kernels is not easily found in the market. And it is high premium for an oil field because when you put that nutmeg shell, not the nutmeg, into the fluid that goes around the drill bit when it's drilling a well, it makes friction and loss of that oil when you have a problem with the drill bit or the pipe that is attached to the drill bit to the surface a lot less. So the value to the oil field customer was like 100 times what it is to a house person, a house cook, or a professional cook who uses nutmeg in something. Okay. So understanding the customer's view at a scale. So you're not selling one product, one widget to the customer, but let's say you are in a country, you're in the middle of COVID, you have the only, what was that famous machine? The ECMO machine, right? If you have the only ECMO machine and somebody is desperate to save the life of their loved one for a few more days, how much is that person willing to pay an MGM or a hospital like MGM for that one ECMO machine that's available? And you will be shocked to hear this answer. The price was almost anything. So institutes like MGM, Apollo went and added a lot of ECMO machines. The interesting thing is the success rate of an ECMO machine is very low. Out of 10 people, one will succeed or two will survive, right? So you have to ask yourself, the value to the person and the patient is all about living extra, and so that your loved ones can tell the rest of their families, I have tried my best with this person, with all the money I have, to make sure they're alive a few more days. That is the value to a customer. The ECMO machine was a fantastic example because the price of an ECMO machine or an ICU ventilator during COVID went through the roof. Okay. The third cost is competitor pricing, supply demand, which is, if you talk to any economist, if you go to business school, they will teach you supply demand microeconomics. I don't want to teach you microeconomics, and my 7 minutes is nearly up. So with due respect, I have no interest of doing a 7-year itch or a 7-minute twitch, right? So from that point of view, I would seriously recommend understand your pricing. When you're an early stage startup in healthcare, for example, a diagnostic company, medtech, right? You want to price below what the customer understands they're willing to pay. Why? Because a customer doesn't know if they want the product. The customer is thinking there is risk to this. The customer has got so much friction between the purchasing decision and where you currently have your product, your pen, right? The customer doesn't know if you buy the pen and open it, will it write? They don't know what color it will write. They don't know if it will write underwater, in the body. They don't know any of that stuff, right? And that is why in medtech, it is very hard to price the early product. My honest opinion with the customer, when you're early, you want to do the substitute cost or make it free. As the customer starts getting proof of concept, you then want to jump into value-based pricing. You do not want to go into competitor substitution. You want to, over long cycles, and if you talk to anybody in technology marketing, they call this the post-Maven period. You want to do then competitor pricing when there are multiple players selling the same product. Okay? So that is pricing. 101, pricing early, cheap. If it's a service, almost give it away for free. Get customers to sample, experience your product, get customers, beta customers to try your product, so you get proof of concept. Knowing when to move from beta to proper pricing is an art, not a science. It is all about what is the minimum scale factor for that technology to scale in your local market. My rule of thumb is if you have 20% of your local markets that you want, that is a good time to start considering it. But I have actually sold products all the way to 40% below cost so that I get market penetration and trial. In fact, in some cases, I gave it away for free. And therefore, I'm very happy because today, those people I gave it away for free to are paying me for my product 5-6 years later, and they will never leave my product because they have grown up on it. Okay. Now I'm going to jump to scaling. So scaling is all about how do I take something that is growing at the unit economics of a salesperson making 20 calls, one sale, to the unit economics of a salesperson doing one visit, 20 sales. Yes, you heard me right. One visit, 20 sales. That difference is what you have to crack. It is not a linear line. It is a couple of hockey sticks or hockey step functions that help you jump. In the early phase of any entity, sorry, I just need some liquid lubrication of some hot substance. Apologies. And my wife is kind enough to bring it. Thank you. Okay. So when you look at these hockey sticks, in the early stages, your salesperson is going to go and visit a bunch of customers to sell the first product. Good luck. Just a second. 1 second, guys. Just a second. I can't see. There. Sorry, guys. So how do you move from a salesperson in the early days is trying to understand your product. It takes a long time for a salesperson to figure out what the right way of selling it. So the first 100 customers you're going to meet. After you meet the first 100 customers, give it to a salesperson. And I've done this, right? The first 100 people I sold in India home healthcare, B2C, B2B, I did myself. So I know this. The first 100 customers, launch of a new pharmaceutical product in Retort Pharmaceuticals, when we launched a new Ayurvedic product, I went myself. I sold it at a fair. I was miserable. I sold, I think, 3 units, if I remember right. I've sold pickles. I've sold frigging oil fields. I've sold companies. So I've gone through the entire ecosystem. I've even sold healthcare services in a hospital. And it's quite hard. When I'm selling and trying to attract a doctor in B2B, you have to go and really spend a lot of time. So there's a company that IIT Madras tried incubating with us. It's still a successful company. The good news is it's successful today. A company called Health Sensei. I have probably gone to about over 100 customers myself. When we were in medical education, I went and visited some 340 nursing colleges and about 120 medical colleges. And just to give you scope of that, there are only 360 medical colleges in India, or they were then. There were 343 then. Now it's 360, maybe to 400. There were about 3,000 nursing colleges then. So I'd gone to over 10% of some of the markets, right? In some cases, I was at 30%. And the reason is you understand the market, what the customer says, especially when you're uncertain what your product market fit is. At the end of that, I promise you, you will understand your customer market fit like nobody else in this industry, because the incumbent who sells that product has not made that many calls, has not spent that much time waiting outside the customer door, getting to know the executive assistant, the gatekeeper, the person who is fed up of seeing your face, the security guard, whoever the hell you call it, the gatekeeper. If you've done it enough times, they will at some point bring you your cup of tea, right? The difference with your wife is she's already invested. The difference with the security guard or a executive assistant is they're not invested. They don't know you for diddly. They think you're another annoying salesperson, probably trying to sell something they don't need. So building a relationship means you have to invest pain. The longest I have waited, and I will honestly say this, is 2.5 hours. I do not have the patience, and Shobna will tell you that I do not have the patience to wait 20 minutes nowadays for a senior appointment, but I have waited 2.5 hours. And some of this hair has been donated to that good cause of me scratching my head. So, in terms of scaling, how do you go from that? Go visit your first 100 customers, B2B or B2C yourself. Understand the pain. And when I mean understand the pain, listening versus talking, always you will have to go and set an agenda. That should not be more than 2 minutes. Once you set an agenda and quickly introduce your product, listen to a pain for at least 40 to 50% of the time. After that 40 to 50% of the time, so let's say somebody gives you 20 minutes if they're a doctor or 30 minutes if they're a business person. If they give you an hour, assume it's half that time, 30 minutes. If they give you 20 minutes, assume it's 10 minutes. Okay? And assume it will take you 3 visits to get the actual meeting, especially with doctors, especially in a hospital. Why? Because there's unpredictability, and frankly, they are fed up with the 100 people who walked the steps before you and have cheesed there and eaten their head off. And guess what? It's not that the doctor doesn't respect you. The doctor just doesn't have a life beyond being in practice. The nurse doesn't have a life beyond spending time in the hospital. The allied health specialist does not have a life. The purchasing manager is cheesed off because some person internally is eating their head, and now you've got an external person who's also eating their head, right? So when you get time, divide it by 2, respect it, and have your sales pitch clearly made for that. First 2 minutes, agenda, very brief introduction. Next, if it's a 20-minute call, the next 10 minutes should be listening to their pain around your solution. And by the way, if they go talking randomly, you will have to nudge them every now and then to what they shouldn't complain about. So if somebody complains about the same damn product or the same service, I mean, I've been to a bunch. Everyone said Apollo prices are too high, we can't afford it. Fortis is ABC, not so ethical, blah, blah, blah. I've heard some of these in my old days, right? They're not useful because guess what? That Fortis and that Apollo were yesterday's Apollo and yesterday's Fortis, right? Tomorrow's Apollo and tomorrow's Fortis may solve some of those problems. And even if they say that about an Apollo and Fortis, they may not come and buy your product or service. So I asked them, what is it you want? And when it was Mehta hospitals, all of them said, look, I want frictionless. I used to visit your hospital. I can't park outside your hospital. It's very painful. You have a compound only for family members or senior doctors, but you do not give car park. So I have to go searching for my car. So I come for, let's say, 1 hour of outpatient, but I then will spend so much time on other things, right? So that was an example of the pain that my, what I would call my influencer customer had when they came to my institute. If they do that, they're not going to help me sell my product, right? Whether it's the actual customer or the doctor, or if somebody's coming for outpatient and spends like 30 minutes parking and 10 minutes outpatient, it's not going to help you. So I solved that problem. After I solved that problem, they then said, sir, your waiting time is large. Your discharge time is large. Today, I'm very happy to say at Dr. Mehta's, our discharge time is 30 minutes, right? In fact, I think at the end of this year, I've invested in one company that will guarantee my discharge time for insurance patient, which normally takes 2 hours in all hospitals, to less than 10 minutes, which means it will be like a hotel. You should have your bill the moment the doctor says discharge, and I can make sure I take back your drugs and other things you have not used from the room and pay you that money, or at least reimburse that and allow you to go, because you're emotionally already drained after a hospital trip and you want to go home, relax, rest, and go. Mehta's, Because if they have that experience of thank you, instead of I had to wait 3 hours and my entire bloody great experience of life saving is destroyed by that 3 hours of waiting, it's not going to help me. Right? So that is what I went and invested in a company, and it's the highest investment I made this year, by the way. My highest health investment, highest any investment, is discharge summary insurance. By the way, they just did Series A and they took a silly amount, so I'm getting a good premium to my equity. So life is kind. But that's the model. And in fact, they're so good that I'm actually telling all my friends that, but obviously slowly, because I don't want them to have the 10-minute discharge. I'd like to have that with Dr. Mehta's, right? But the other thing that came up a lot was clinical outcomes, right? So a lot of my customers said, we come to you for safety. We come to you, we sometimes see your toilets aren't that clean. I therefore think your hygiene is not great, and therefore I don't think your clinical outcomes are great. And I used to say my clinical outcomes are fantastic. Look at what I measure, right? It's fantastic. I think you guys are not thinking the right way. But then I spent time understanding what do you look for, and they said hygiene was a proxy for clinical outcome. Okay, one. Number two, marketing is a proxy for clinical outcomes. So the more a person markets with fancy bullshit, right, it's clinical outcomes. And they're going, boss, Apollo spends 7% of their frigging revenue on marketing and MGM spends 10%, not because their clinical outcomes are great, because they're desperate to get you and they think that a glitzy sign will get you convinced. Right? GE, Siemens, all the big guys don't spend it because they actually have superior clinical outcomes. They may have sometimes, but a lot of the time they don't. And COVID, I will guarantee on my heart and say, my clinical outcomes are better, vastly better, not small, it's big difference. I'm much closer to a gold standard like CMC Vellore, like Medanta, or like a Manipal hospital in India than I have left the Apollos of this world and the Fortises and the others far behind. And the reason is I concentrated over the next 10 years of my life focusing on clinical outcome as the central piece of my focus. I benchmark, I look at the data, I go myself, I'm a trained NABH assessor. I have invested the time to understand that service, product, whatever. So coming back to scaling, understand the proxy for your customer for what they need is fulfilled by. They're coming to the hospital or they want to buy your product to save a life or to make it more convenient and to save some time or to reduce their cost. So if you're reducing cost, you can't charge them much more money. So a guy like Practo, let me use a fantastic common example, charges me and tries to charge me a certain amount as a hospital to put my service on Practo. It then charges the customer to use the service, right? Practo then got smart. They said, let me not charge the customer. Let me take shareholder money and charge the venture capitalists so they make a lot of money. Okay, so the customer didn't pay for a while. The hospital still paid and Practo paid. I mean, the venture capital paid, right? But what we learned very quickly is what was the cost to the hospital of using Practo was what? Was having the patient wait in the hospital, maybe some air condition cost, but during that time they'd wait, they would buy things from my cafeteria, they would go to the coffee shop, they may even go to the gift shop. So the reality was a Practo is actually not great for a hospital. Now for a customer, a Practo is fantastic. It solves a real problem for a customer, it reduces friction. But guess who should be charging that and who should be solving it? It shouldn't be a third party intermediate aggregator. It should be a disaggregator who kills the third party. I should not have a person between me and the doctor, from a customer or the hospital doctor, with friction. If a hospital truly cares, it will solve this damn problem. If a hospital is stupid, it will hire Practo. Right? Guess what? A lot of stupid hospitals out there. No disrespect to Practo, they're geniuses. They're the highest fundraised thing. I take my hats off to the guys who invested in them. I think they're idiots. I think that company will fall flat someday, but that's my personal opinion. Okay. And I don't mean it to be disrespectful to a Practo or any of the corporate guys. It's just the reality. When you aggregate something that could benefit from disaggregation, then it is not going to help. So I think the reality is, when you're scaling, solve the true pain of the customer and then understand the hockey stick you're solving for. Your first set of customers are all about use case feedback, pain understanding, product market fit. You're not trying to scale. You're trying to get your salespeople to get a system in place so they can sell cookie cutter approach 1, 2, 3. Your second step, your next set of scaling is, how do I take the first 100 to the next 1,000? That needs a very different approach. For that, I need affiliates, or I need partners, or I need other salespeople that I may not train personally, but my other salesperson has to train. For that, I need to understand the incentive mechanism that takes from salesman 1 to salesman 10. And that means I have to understand a standard cookie cutter for a sales process, including distribution. This is different. When Samir Mehta sells a product, it is very different when Samir Mehta hires somebody to sell that same product. You are passionate as an entrepreneur. Your salesperson is a 9 to 5 job. The reality is, you're going to force them to work 9 to 7. They hate you anyway. Yeah. The third step is, once you've sold 1,000, how do I take from 1,000 to 100,000? Meaning, when the salesperson is not even visiting this damn hospital or doctor or health institution or whatever, B2B, B2C, or customer consumer, why is the consumer worrying about that person and buying anyway? Right? So think about Flipkart. Even when Flipkart is not advertising, somebody is coming to Flipkart. Somebody is coming to Amazon. Why? That means that while you sleep, while your salesperson sleeps, means non-human linear scaling. How does a customer access or get understanding of your product? And this is where marketing makes the world of difference. My marketing budget is to help beta customers get my first 100. My marketing budgets 2 is, how do I give the salesperson internal confidence? So it's much more about internal communication. My marketing budget 3 is then, how do I get my customer to buy my product without the salesperson sitting in front of them? 3 different buckets. That is scaling 101. I have well overshot the mark here. I apologize. I have killed the 7 minutes. I have kind of like murdered into close to 20. So now I will talk about alliances, and then I'm going to just give it to you for questions. Alliances are simple. You are looking for partners that help you do these 3 steps: pricing, understanding, scaling, rapid growth, and people I want to grow old with, that I enjoy sharing time with because they respected me enough that they spent time listening to me as a customer, or the gatekeeper who was just a lot of fun that I learned a lot from, right? Which I have. I've got a couple of examples of good gatekeepers. Balachandran's executive assistant at Great Lakes is one of my all-time favorite human beings on the planet, Pratibha, right? So people like that, you should get to know them, learn their birthdays, learn whether they have kids, so that when you visit them 10 times, you're solving a pain of theirs that they do not know is an unmet need. That will help you get your second generation of products and services. Remember, if you're a one product company, you will be bought by somebody else quickly. If you're a 2 product company, you may buy somebody else. Who's the best example? Facebook, WhatsApp, Microsoft and everybody else, Google and everybody else. Don't have to look further than the tech companies in this space. Siemens, GE, they're not one product line. They have in one specialty field, they have so many products. Drug company, same thing. Lab company, histopathology, microbiology, whatever, right? So with alliances, what you've got to look for is somebody who helps you to go from your current A to a different B. And if you can think ahead, you want them to not solve A to B, but B to C. Even though I'm sitting at A, I'm solving B to C. The best example is I am desperate to buy a house in ECR today. 10 years ago, I used to visit these houses. All these houses were kachada houses. People were trying to give them away. I could get many of them for lakhs. Today, even with crores in my damn pocket, I'm struggling to find something I like. Because the moment I agree, somebody will change their price, get greedy, or somebody thinks that, oh, MGR bought this house, or MGR's great grandson, sorry, bought this house. Vijay lives opposite. Boss, Vijay's memory lives opposite. Vijay is happily living somewhere else, probably on a movie set, making lots of movies and money for you and for himself. And he doesn't really care about this particular beach house in this particular area. Because I don't think Vijay lives in a 3-ground beach house somewhere that is going to be comparable to my 3 grounds. Right? Only problem is I can only afford 3 grounds, whereas Vijay might be able to afford 30 grounds. I don't know. Right? Shobna, don't look like you're completely shocked. But why I'm telling you this is you understand the alliance you're making. If I'd have made friends with all those people who were taking me to see the property instead of being pissed off at them because they wasted my time 10 years ago, I would have got my land in bloody ECR by now. But they irritated the shit out of me, so I weren't very respectful. Loss of hair, a lot of it is from there. Beautiful skin tone, a lot of it is because I walked up and down ECR. Right? So, the key alliances you need to build are your first 10 beta customers. You want good people, and choosing the beta customer is not about the brand of the institution. It is the quality and the time and the attention and the interest and the skill of the champion who is helping you. So let's say, hypothetical example, you are trying to sell to Mehta hospitals. You come and talk. We have a Dr. Sarana Kumar, who is one of the best guys that I've ever come across. He is the new CEO in waiting. And if you spend time with Sarana Kumar, you know he will invest time trying to understand your service as much as he will share his pain. He's a fantastic champion. I have another person called Manikam. He's an allied health person. He's the allied health champion of India at the moment. He's a fantastic person because he will spend time with you to understand your product. So I sent him to IIT to look at these. There was a company selling these mistifiers on taps. It had no relevance to an allied health guy, but I needed somebody to understand how to cut water costs in my hospital. So I sent Manikam. Manikam has implemented the damn mistifier in every single tap in my hospital in Mehta's. My water cost is 20% lower than every other hospital. I can pass that on to my customer, or I may be able to afford maybe a little bit, one more tree in my ECR dream 3-ground beach house that is smaller than most surgeons' houses, and that's okay, right? Coming back, the next alliance that's critical after your first 10 beta customers and your champion quality, so you're looking for the champion, is a customer who can help you understand the distribution channel that clicks with customers. So an example of this is, it is typically a customer or somebody who sells to the same customer. So if you're a diagnostic center and you're trying to sell a test or a kit, a rapid kit of some sort for, let's say, DNA testing or some sort of reagent, it may not be the person who is distributing your top guy's reagents. It may be the guy who's selling the bottles to all the guys who are selling reagents. It may be the guy who sells software to all labs. Why? Because they already have the relationships and you're not a competitor or a threat to them. They will share all their secrets as an advisor for that alliance. The company will help you. Why? Because they may want an extra product line if they're a smart company. So Mehta's, for example, is about to enter health education in a big way. We already train. We're one of the top trainers for doctors, for allied health, for entrepreneurs in residence. So how do I scale an entrepreneur in residence between Dr. Mehta's and the Atlas family office? to take over and run one of my companies? By simple, I find great talent, I work with people enough about it, and once I find that person who can run their own company, I want them to also run part of my company, no? So I then try and attract them into Mehta's. That's how I operate. And why? Because I don't want them to just run the 2 or 3 products that I have. I want them to run my entire portfolio headache of all the other things that I invest in healthcare, how to sell them to 100 hospitals, right? The third major partnership you're looking for is after you have come to that distribution where the salesperson is still scratching their head thinking, how do I move from city 1 or geography 1 to geography 2 or product market 2? It is always tough. Why? Because the salesperson and the team you have in place does not truly understand what it takes to make the jump. You did it when you started your company. The other people around you may not know that. So the way you solve this specific problem is you would typically go and look for a person in a new geography or who's already selling that new product line or who is part of what I told you in the last step, which is go find somebody who's distribution and aligned affiliate adjacent product to the customers you're trying to access. And just do that. So geographic scaling, I go find a person. Let's say I'm a Chennai company. I go find a person in Bangalore. Because Bangalore may be a big market. And by the way, I don't need to do it in every city. I just need to do it in my major city, right? I know that for me to make it successful, I should click at least 2 major southern states. So if I'm successful in Chennai, my next step would be Bangalore or Hyderabad or somewhere in Kerala, Cochin or something like that. Cochin doesn't have many healthcare institutions relative to some of the other places, and their behavior is not always that linear because they have a lot of margin pressure. So Hyderabad tends to be a good second market. So does Bangalore. Whereas I've had people who have started their business in Chennai and their next step is Delhi. There is National Hospital that went to Malaysia. I think the National Hospital 2 was in Malaysia. They lost it. They lost National Hospital. They sold it to a new person, came back. There is a Santosh Hospital in Chennai that did their Unit 2 in somewhere in Uttarakhand or Uttar Pradesh somewhere. They've also not done as well. It sometimes works, but most of the time it won't work, right? If I go from geography A to 100,000 miles away, geography B, the customer's taste is different. You understanding customer in Chennai is not the same as understanding a freaking customer in Delhi, right? Whereas Chennai has some similarities with the Bangalore, has some similarities with the Hyderabad, has some similarities with Kerala. Not all, but some. But logical, if I was sensible, I'd go to Coimbatore first, right? So if Mehta Hospital wants to open a new hospital, logically, if I'm in Chennai, I'd want to go to Coimbatore. Logically, if I'm in Chennai, I then want to go to the next place that needs desperate good healthcare, Trichy, E-Road, those type of places. But obviously, I have to understand my competitors there. If I go to Coimbatore, I'm competing against one of my favorite institutions, Kovai Medical Center. Fantastic center of excellence. Ganga Hospital. Fantastic center of excellence. I love these guys. Why would I want to compete in their front yard with them? Until I am big enough that they don't care, and I don't care whether I win or lose against them in that market, because I should not make it a win or lose decision. I should be, how can I be in that market as an alliance partner to a Ganga hospital? How can I be in that place as an alliance partner with a Kovai Medical? Right? And that's what I'm trying to solve on. I want to grow old with good people by my side. I'd like to share that with the best of people. And so I want to sell 1,000 healthcare products or technologies. So I make friends with all of them. I invest alongside all of them. I used to think that I was competing once upon a life. 10 years later, I find out, I was competing. Not anymore. 10 years ago, I was competing against child trust. I don't compete against child trust anymore. In fact, when COVID came, Child Trust came and asked us, Dr. Mehtas, to run their adult ward in Child Trust for COVID patients and to look after their own staff. That is privilege. That is special. I today talk to the Child Trust board members as friends because they are friends. I talk to their medical director and give him advice. In fact, when Rainbow Hospital stole half of Child Trust. I was the one who made the call to Rainbow saying, guys, stop doing this. You're a bad citizen and you will make my wrath. Rainbow was happy to piss off Child Trust. They don't want to piss off Samir Mehta because Samir Mehta could make 3 calls and make life miserable for a Rainbow. So Rainbow said, fair enough, we'll stop. Hands up. Right? It works sometimes. Sometimes they'll tell you, piss off, I'll come after you. Right? I'm a little bit fearless in that because I like to grow old with people and I have a lot of friends. Right? And I'm willing, my friends know that I'll roll up for them and therefore they'll roll up for me. And that is what differentiates great alliances. You grow old with great people. They look after your back even when you don't want to. So best example is I told you about the salesperson selling a product when they sleep, right? Non-human linear scaling. When an alliance partner comes to you because you are the best person for a partnership, you have solved your problem. Why do people come to Mehta's to trial technology that I desperately want to trial? Because we have a great reputation for commercialization, for publishing, for helping people go from A to B to introducing to the next 100 customers. Why did Bayada come to us? For that. Why did India Home Health, originally the entrepreneur, come to us? For that. Why did everyone come to us? For that. That is what you're trying to solve. That's it. Been a long talk. I've spoken a lot. I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to ask you, please post some questions and ask me some seriously good questions, please. Or have a conversation.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So we do have a couple of questions on the chat. We have a comment from Vaibhav Bhatia. He has mentioned his startup solution. So any questions from Vaibhav? Do you have any questions to be asked?
He's probably got fed up because I said I wasn't going to do. Vaibhav is not property.
I'm not fed up.
Sorry, Vaibhav, I can see you. Sorry.
I was
Lamarck.
just trying to, yes, Lamarck Biotech. So we are a formulation company. We convert normal biologics like insulin, vaccines into a thermostable formulation so that could be transported out of cold chain. The idea is to reach areas of the globe where cold chain is, the refrigerated systems are not very intact.
So you're a third world developing market. So why are you sitting in Chennai and doing it? Where are you sitting?
Actually in Vellore.
Fantastic. Yes. So you're part of VIT's incubation?
Exactly, yes. Dr. Bala.
Great.
Yes.
They're a good, very good group. I have to say hats off to the team there, Bala and the rest. Look, I think this is so this one, the person you need to talk to about this is the vaccine queen of the world, and that is a lady who actually lives in Chennai, Padma Chandrasekharan. She used to be the senior advisor to Bill Gates. I'm talking about Bill Gates. I'm not talking about Microsoft. Bill Gates.
Yes.
She designed the vaccine policy for parts of India and the entirety of Africa.
Okay.
She is accessible to HTIC. If you are very friendly with Muthu Singaram, he will help you get to Padma. Okay. I think she will help you solve this problem better than Samir Mehta can. Now, that being said, think about who your customers are. Your customer is, or your adjacent partner is somebody who has set up a cold chain for food, right? And might see you as an adjacent service. Your customer is not in your earliest day another hospital group in the middle of nowhere, because that hospital doesn't know how to get your product and get it to them. So it's a B2B customer is the sense I have. How do I crack that code? I'd probably want somebody who has sold or who has built the distribution network with Unilever or ITC or Procter & Gamble for some FMCG product that needed refrigeration. So somebody who did seafood, for example. Somebody who did ice creams, for example. Right? I would go there first. I would understand the scaling. Now, that doesn't teach you about the B2B relationship. It'll teach you about the supply chain methodology. The relationship you can only really solve with somebody like a Padma expertise or somebody like that. There are a couple of other guys who are very good, but go talk to the guy who sold 1,000 vaccines. The problem is the guy who sold 1,000 vaccines, 1 million vaccines is happily sitting with Yele or whatever his name is, Ponuwala, and they have no interest in coming and talking to Pixie Wixie, right? So especially in Vellore. So to me, it looks like I go talk to the ice cream guy first.
Okay, that's a cool point. Yes, to understand the supply chain part
To understand the supply
and to
chain and to find
quantify the
out who can
pricing.
help you do trials and to figure it out and to then go and do a geographic focused area. So a fantastic area that I can tell you bought a lot of vaccines recently. And I can tell you this is the president of AHPI in Tamil Nadu was Erode Salem. About 30 to 50 hospitals, small hospitals got together to buy the Covishield and Covaxin vaccines together.
Okay.
I was very impressed with them. And then there was a group out of not Kumbakonam, but the place next to Kumbakonam, Sivakasi. And what is next to Sivakasi? It starts with V. Whatever. Sivakasi is next door neighbor that Pandyarajan used to be the MLA for. That place, I think, came to us and they bought a whole bunch of vaccines from the Covishield guys. And so those guys really understood the cold chain. So I would talk to MedPlus as well. MedPlus have had to distribute vaccines during this period.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you obviously don't want to go and talk to a person that is a direct competitor or who you are 0.1% market size and they are selling many other products. That is not of interest to you. All right. I'm conscious I've got 8 minutes, so let's give somebody else a chance.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. That was very great of you. Yes,
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We'll move to the next question. We have a question from Chris Whale. He's asking about establishing partnerships. So, Chris Whale, can you please unmute yourself and go ahead with your question in detail?
Chris Whale got fed up of me.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
sorry,
hey,
sir.
Chris,
I
thanks
just
for
put it
hanging
in
on.
mute, like, sorry. Yeah, sir. Like, so my question is like, see, as a technology company, as like we do something in the cloud side and analytics data warehousing, like kind of. So how do we get
Who is
connections?
going to
Like,
buy your data?
So the data will be used by doctors in the hospitals and the diagnostic centers. Like.
So how are you going to convince a hospital when the hospital is not a customer?
That is where the tricky questions comes. Like I just
that means
need
your
some
business model is not great, right? Go spend some time understanding the business model. Go knock your head. Where do you sit, Chris?
Sir, I sit in Chennai, sir.
Which incubator are you part of?
Sir, right now in the mentoring session, like it's not picked up right now. Like
okay. I would go talk to somebody like Muthu and Archana to see if you can get into HTIC. Anna has a good incubator. Crescent has a good incubator. I mean, I personally think HTIC is a rockstar one, but that's because Sam is biased and he sits on the freaking parents board, but that's a different topic. But there are a couple of different incubators that are out there that you need a better product market fit. That's what it sounds like. And therefore, that's a business model. Your problem is a business model problem. It's not a service problem.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So you are trying to sell to doctors. You need to have a consolidation of data before you can sell to doctors. But to collect that data and to get enough customer use cases, you need lots of hospitals to convert. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Correct, sir. Correct, sir. Yeah, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
1 second. I'm getting a call. So 1 second. Sorry. Look, I think, I mean, I hope the advice I've given you helps.
Yes, sir. Because like straight away, like to hospital, I go and say like, I do so and so services.
So you come and you can pitch it to Samir Mehta because I might see value in investing in you and therefore I can push it into Mehta's, but that's like because Sam is there, right? But there aren't many Sams that are repeatable, replicable, that easy to find across the country. Very few of us. But that would be one way of thinking about it.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Yeah,
All right.
this is a great platform and opportunity wherein like right now,
But spend time with guys like
I
Muthu
can.
Sitaram. They'll help you brainstorm with the right solution, product market fit. Kaho is another platform that our good friend here is sitting, and you've actually got one of the officers of Kaho sitting here. So you can irritate our Madam G.
Okay,
Shobna, turn your
so
camera on so everyone can at least recognize you, celebrity that you now are. You can talk to Shobna. She's an officer in Kaho, and if we have anything to do, she'll be an officer in AHPI as well. But she's part of FICCI, Flow, and all that good stuff. And she used to be an
okay.
alum of Dr. Mehta's. I think that was more important, and you learned more than NHS, right?
Yeah,
There.
yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, thanks.
Now one brownie point in Goa next month. So anyway, coming back, so let's focus a little bit on any more questions. I think there's
Thank you,
one
sir.
more question.
Yeah. Yes, sir. We have a couple of questions. So SREHA, we have a question from them. Opportunity of property tech will evolve on India. Will it survive? Is this question from him? So anything in detail? You
Yeah,
can unmute and
there's
go ahead
great
with the
property
question.
tech. Actually, I'm investing in a couple of property tech companies. I think it's fantastic. I like property tech. If you have a great plan, please send it to me. Get my email from Archana, and actually, I will even share it in the chat, so you don't have to even ask her. I'll reduce friction. Send me a plan, and I will happily have a look at it there. It's in chat. Feel free to irritate me, at least on property tech, but it better be a damn good business plan. Huh? But I look
Thank you,
for
sir.
great entrepreneurs, right? Sometimes you may not have the right business plan, business model. It's okay. We can tinker a little bit and between ourselves figure it out. As long as I own 10% of your company, I'll be happy, no? And in the early days, if I own 10% of your company, you don't care. You only care when Sequoia comes in and you're choosing between Sequoia and Samir Mehta. Then Samir Mehta will be the forgotten. Forget doctor. You won't even give me an essay. It'll be some Mir Mehta. You'll even forget my
Yeah.
name. Ah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So we have next question from Selva Kumar. Selva Kumar, do you want to go ahead with your question? Please unmute and go ahead with your question.
Very good afternoon, sir. Very good afternoon to you, sir. So myself, Selva Kumar, Armashid Healthcare Innovation Private Limited, virtually incubated at SPVVM University, Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah, you've got this
My question,
armor
yeah,
shield, right? The
yes, sir,
nanobot,
Armashid.
and you're trying to do antiviral. So you're
Yes,
trying to do material science.
yes, yes, sir. We had a antiviral mask right now with us, and we are looking forward, and we almost
Yeah, but
supplied.
I'm not sure I care so much about. See, you're like the guy who's trying to sell the air purifier, right?
No,
It
no, we are
is
not
perhaps
that
a bit
person,
too
sir.
late
No,
for
no.
that to be hugely popular, and I'm not sure I'll risk my life with a new product or an unknown product.
Sir, sorry for the interruption. I am a co-founder of Armashil Healthcare Innovations. I am Suganti.
Hey, Suganti.
Yeah, we had as a team proposed for that, and we had pre-incubation training at HTIC IIT Madras, and now we are virtually incubated at SPMVB. And right now, our incubation experiments or R&D is going on there, and we are doing all the antimicrobial and antiviral tests are going to be held at IIC Bangalore. So our problem is that we are full-time academicians, and once this startup idea clicks and picks up, we would plan to get into this venture fully. So as of now, uh, as you said, pre-market launch, we have tested our antiviral solution in collaboration with our industrial support from Muse Nanobots, who were also incubated at IIT Madras 5 years ago, and they are into this business for the past 2 years. So they are supporting us for the mass manufacturer. So we got the MOU signed with them, and we presented it that
No. So
during our
Suganti, look,
incubation.
I understand your
Yeah,
product a little bit, and I understand and I don't want to spend that much time so that we understand everything because that's not the intent of this session. Uh,
yeah,
we've looked at quite a few companies that sold innovative protective gear. We've looked at quite a few companies that have sold uh, things that reduce increase the infection control or infection safety risk that is logical of high touch surfaces like say
Yes, yes, sir.
CSSP or operating theaters or hospital environments.
yes,
These are bloody tough markets to represent. I will tell you that. How would I crack this code? I would probably today go to, for example, so in a hospital, the top 3 areas of extreme care for treatment will be my CSST, my operating theater, and a fertility unit.
Okay, sir.
Can someone mute Mr. Selvakumar? Can you
Selvakumar,
mute?
sir, please mute your mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these 3 areas are the most sensitive areas for infection risk in a hospital that's measurable. But actually, I may not want to test my product in a hospital at all. I want to go to the food industry. I go to the food industry where I'm making things that are highly sensitive to infection risk, like, for example, seafood. And there, if I can implement all my solutions, it's a customer that you have designed a NASA product and you're giving it to every car person.
Okay.
Maybe that's the idea that works.
Okay,
Now,
you mean
your
to say like
antiviral mask, maybe it's for the food guy first or the kitchen guy second, and those places. Maybe the way I convince a doctor to buy that damn thing is giving it free to all the gatekeepers who meet and greet the doctor every day.
yes, sir.
The security guard. Now,
Sure.
it doesn't sound great, but guess what? If your security guard is wearing a fancier mask than the frigging doctor who owns the hospital, the doctor is going to ask the security guard, tell me about it. You've got a free salesman, you're asleep, your security guard has become your salesperson, you have succeeded.
Sure, sir. We'll take up
Mr.
that.
Selvakumar, please mute yourself
Yes.
again.
I've just muted him. Yes.
All right.
So,
All right. I hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so
So,
much, sir.
yeah,
for-
we'll take up your point, sir. There is
Right.
contacting the
It's all
food
free
suppliers
consulting.
and
This is the McKinsey $1 million. They used to charge me out for $1 million a month in McKinsey.
yeah, definitely, sir. Once
Yes,
we
this is
scale up
all
our production
McKinsey
and
wisdom with Dr. Mehta's spice and Samir Mehta's bloody nth number of degrees, which he somehow can't
we are
stop
very
learning.
fortunate to have it from you. Yes.
Yes, sir. Very, very happy to listen your
Getting
words, sir.
incubated with smarter people than me, who will invest time to get to know your product and spend the next 3 hours. I don't have the patience, so I apologize. But if you want to
No,
try
no, no,
something
no,
and
no,
give
no.
me a free mask, I'm always available. If you can give me
Yeah.
a free mask and a property
Sure,
in
sir.
ECR at a discount, I will really thank you and I'll make sure you succeed. Don't worry.
Sure, sir.
Yes,
We
sir.
will
Sir,
keep
if you allow us,
contacting.
we'll come and
That
meet
is
you,
the
sir. If you
solution
give
to a
appointment, yeah.
problem. Solve my damn pain. How do I buy a cheaper beach house on ECR? And therefore, I will solve all your pain for the next 10 years. But people don't think this way. People are always busy with their agenda in a sales call. I come to you, I'm trying to sell this pen to you. I am forgetting that really what I'm trying to solve is the person wants to write on a surface. By the way, the surface is something that has to be upside down, and pen ink does not flow well upside down. And the right answer to that is buy a bloody pencil or chalk.
Three Idiots picture.
Like
Okay.
Three Idiots picture.
Yeah.
Except it did not come from Three Idiots. It came from NASA having spent some $100 million designing a space pen. And I've actually got the space pen to design the space pen and then reduce the cost of the space pen to, I think now it's $29. And yet the Russians solved the same damn problem with a pencil.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
thank you. Yeah,
Thank you for your valuable input, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks. So
Thank
solve
you.
a pain, customer pain, distributor pain, scaling pain. You solve these three, life simple.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
We'll-
All right.
We'll take your
Thank you.
words.
I
Yes,
will
sir.
take one final question. Otherwise, I think I've run
Yes,
over the top
yes,
and
sir.
I really have to get out.
Yes, sir. So we have a hand raised from Mr. Arun Kumar from the start. So maybe we can take his question
Please,
as a final
Arun,
one.
go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thanks for this opportunity and a wonderful session. So we are currently incubated with HTIC, and we have built an platform. It's a mobile-based practice management platform dedicated to physiotherapy. So we are not. It's not a generic platform, but then we are just focusing on physiotherapy, and we have few initial customers. And we are getting very good feedback from them who have been using it for about 6 months now. And I would have, like you said, I would have demoed it to at least 100 clinics, and there are a lot of aha moments when they look at the platform, when they see the demo, but then when it really comes to actually subscribing and purchasing it, there is a lot of hesitance. So it could be due to my sales skills that
No,
are
it
not
might
that
be that
good.
the customer has not understood the product or doesn't see enough value in the product relative to your price.
Okay, okay. So yeah, I mean that's what I'm not sure where we are going wrong. So if you can give us some directions on
So
what
help
things
me
we could
understand a
do.
little bit. This is a product, the core customer or the end customer is a B2C or a B2B?
It's a B2B, sir. I mean, primarily it's the physiotherapist, and we also have a component where the patients will be able to look at their prescribed
No, no. So here's
exercises.
the problem. You're solving the patient problem. You're giving a nice dashboard to a patient, and a physiotherapist doesn't want to pay for it.
Uh, so it's primarily to the physiotherapist to manage their
No, no,
practice
no. My
in terms
question
of.
to you is simple.
Mhm.
The app is designed with the consumer in mind, not the physiotherapist. When you did the research, how many physiotherapists did you meet first?
Uh, Probably around 20 to 25 whom I met with,
So
sir.
the problem with that is, in a lot of these markets, is there enough rent in the system is a question you have to ask.
Okay.
You understand what this rent term is?
Yeah, I mean, how much they can pay or how much they can afford.
How much money is there in the system? That's, I didn't ask how much people can pay. I said how much rent in the system. In a
Okay.
value chain, so let's say this is a value chain, it goes from this to this, then the pen gets finished, it gets the refill next. That's the value chain, right?
Right.
It gets a label that puts the nice sticker on it. Then it gets some embossed little thingy, plastic twiggly that puts in, and the metal thing. That's the, in that value chain it goes in. Now think about who in this value chain makes a lot of money for the pen. Just do some thinking, please. Who makes money in a pen value system?
Maybe the ink guy.
Arun, you're right. The ink guy is making money. Why? Because the ink is a premium product. He puts it in plastic. There's a lot of value added service. And the person who puts ink into more pens is selling lots of ink. Ink refill means he's selling even more ink when he's sleeping, because the guy's already bought the damn pen. He just needs a refill. Right?
Right.
So the ink guy makes money. Who else makes money? I'm trying to show it to you.
The
Labeling
cap.
guy. The
Labeling. Oh,
labeling
okay.
guy. Cap is here. The
Okay. Okay.
labeling guy. The third guy who makes money is the retailer. The problem with the retailer is selling 100 different pens. But
Right.
the guy who sells this is selling to all the guys. 10 years ago, did you ever see this damn label on a pen?
No.
Right. This is called genius marketing. This guy sold it to one guy, then he sold it to the next guy, then he sold it to the next guy. And all it is a damn simple code. But the guy who makes this sticker makes it and mints money. The guy who makes the ink, that is the refill in the pen. I don't even know if this pen opens up. I don't think so. I'll kill the pen. Oh, it probably does open up at the back if I bite it. So that guy makes money. But otherwise, the other guy who will make money on this pen is the guy who's going to dispose of the pen, because plastic waste is worth a lot. Right?
Okay.
That will be the third guy. So I think understand the value chain. And I use the pen example because intuitively, in a physiotherapy, who has the rent? Do you know? Who has the rent?
Yeah, I mean, I learned that
It is the
probably
guy
the
who sells the physiotherapy machine. To all the physiotherapists out there, it is the mobile phone player who sells the damn mobile phone to all people who are doing physiotherapy education, so they can watch lots of videos. YouTube player is busy being abused by all physiotherapists, because YouTube is where they distribute their product, no? WhatsApp,
Right.
that stuff. But a physiotherapist doesn't make that much money. How many people have seen a physiotherapist owning a house in ECR?
Not many, sir.
Who has the rent? In this place, not many. I think strategically you're playing in the wrong place. You may win, but you will be going against uphill slope, and you will be working 3 times harder to get this market than somebody who sells to some other product guy.
Okay.
I think there are better things. Go talk to the guy who's trying to buy a house on ECR. I mean, I can only afford a 3 crore house, but at least I'll solve a bloody 3 crore house, right? If you want to be richer than that, go sell it to a politician who can buy a 300 crore house. They are there. I can't afford it, so it's not me.
Sure, sir.
Right? I think for you, it's a strategy question. I don't think it is. The rent is not there. Someday it may be there, right? So is there a way you can be almost frictionless, costless to a physiotherapist today, like YouTube is to them today? If you can do that and be there with everybody, it's great. Otherwise, I don't know. I think you will go and get some celebrity physiotherapist, but most physiotherapists that are starting off don't relate to the celebrities. They relate to their peers. They relate to what makes sense, because there's so little rent in that ecosystem. Why would that person give it away? Very few physiotherapists afford a car. So you cannot price software like a car. Most of them will have a scooter, a cycle, they'll travel by bus, right? If they have a scooter or a bike, that means they're on the higher end of physiotherapy. If they have a car, they're a very successful physiotherapist. If they have their own plane, let them invest in you. All right.
Sure.
Arun, I hope that helps.
Yeah, it really helps.
Common sense more than anything else. I don't think I use much wisdom for that one, to be honest.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir.
So I think we are good. I think I've gone 12 minutes over, and I have to apologize for those of you who have actually been diligently listening to the yarn and wisdom of a bald guy who isn't even that great to look at. You leave that to my wife, who puts up with me and somehow doesn't ask for rent or sitting charges, as my joke is. At least a board pays me sitting charges. My wife kicks me and asks me to not sit so much. So different trade-offs. But I think, look, the idea of doing these is for you also to get to know each other. So I think in this time, hopefully some of you who asked each other questions and you were impressed with the thinking of somebody else, or you think your product can be affiliated to somebody else, get to know them. You know, I wish in my earliest days, and I was an entrepreneur at the age of 12, and I learned this, but I forgot it for a while. Because I went and did an MBA and I went and did an engineering master's and all these shitty degrees, which were useful, but they didn't teach me common sense. Common sense is I want to grow old with great people by my side together, so that when we are older, we have people to sit and drink with, or we have people to have ice cream with, or things like that. We have people to tell me, Sam, you're losing all your hair. You don't look that great. Don't lose your wife because you're screwing it up at home, right? As an example. Right? Because if you come back on the market now, the only person who look at you is somebody who's either blind as a bat or who appreciates your caustic approach to feedback, which may not be many of you, right? So from that point of view, you want people who share you to an extent. That means that it's some of the people that are here today on the session alongside you that asked interesting questions and that took the advice and were able to implement it. I want on my team. I want to be my advisors, my board members. I want them to be my beta customers, right? And we forget that. We always try and be the king on the castle. You know something? The king on the castle is a lousy, lonely job. The king is unhappy. The wife is having an affair with 5 people. The princess doesn't listen to king, and the prince is killing everybody that the king tried to save, right? So the harsh reality of it is everyone hates the king. But the king, all of us look at the king because they got the nice, shiny gold crown, right? I have a better crown. It's a crown of cats playing cards. I like cards. Shobna will tell you why, because I design fun behavior games that are card games. To me, this is the crown I want. And this is an original painting. This is not a copy. This is not a print. This is a freaking original painting from the other side of the world, right? This is the crown that you want in life. You want somebody to see a painting like this and say, Sam, I think you should buy this, or I will buy it for you next time I travel somewhere. That is when you have cracked the right code. So look alongside you, look to the left and right, except you're in Zoom. So when you look to the left and right, you just see prettier people than me. Maybe you'll see Shobna if you're lucky, but otherwise you're messed up. Archana doesn't turn on her camera, so you can't see Archana. So that's not helping you. Muthu is probably run away, so you can't even see happy Muthu. So you'll have to live with me. So look, the reality is, look at some of your peers. Muthu is on. Hey, Muthu, you're much better looking. I just complimented you, man. Muthu, you're on mute.
Archana is there. She's always there.
But she's put a mask on because she's worried she might be propositioned now by
She's in
some
office.
nice entrepreneur who will become a billionaire someday. Hey,
She's
Archana,
already a
I'm telling you.
millionaire. She's
Sir, I'm in the office.
We're all in the same room. So
Then be safe, right? Because you still want to be there. You want to be alive and present when they come and visit you, right? So I think seriously, guys, I hope you enjoyed this session. Look, I am approachable. I think there'll be more sessions like this. If you really like me, ask friends Muthu and Archana to organize more. In fact, if you're in another incubator, you can invite us and Muthu and me can do a Laurel and Hardy show. Please note, I am volunteering to be Laurel, but you'll make me Hardy. For those of you who remember Laurel and Hardy, Laurel was the ugly, thin one. Hardy was the funny, good-looking one.
thanks. Very kind of you.
We
better let these girls go. So
yeah. So anyway, Archana, go out of the office. You passed your work time. I apologize. And guys, any help? Leverage HTIC. Look, I love HTIC, but I think VIT's incubator is also fantastic, Vaibhav. And I think please pass my regards to Bala. I don't know the others, so I can't comment that openly, but I'm sure they're very good. But if there's anything I can do to help you guys, happy to tie up with HTIC or the IIT Research Park. And you can even borrow and steal some of my hair. I do donate it for good causes. So I think with that, that's there. Cool, guys.
Thank you,
Good luck.
sir. Thank you so much
And
for
we
your
want you
time.
all to succeed, right? More important than anything else, we want you guys to succeed. As entrepreneurs, I have no interest of seeing you guys by the roadside not succeeding. Hopefully, you'll invite me into your much bigger house someday to tell me and give me advice. Hey, Sam, look down here to get your 3 grounds of ECR. Right? That makes the world a bit better. That's what we like to see. Cool.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you, sir.
Always good to have you, and thank you for the brilliant insights. So, as a practice, we'll be posting the session video on our YouTube channel for the participants who missed out. So,
Oh my
hope
God.
that is also
I will
fine.
get abuse from Apollo, Practo, Fortis, and everybody else. I have a lot of respect for you guys. Not as much as Dr. Mehta's, because I love Dr. Mehta's, but I might
Yes,
buy
sir.
your shares. In fact, I do own Apollo shares.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you all the
That's a good
participants.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
Thanks to you. Thanks for organizing this. Really.
So participants, we do have a feedback form for you. We'll post the feedback form in the chat box, requesting you to kindly fill it up for us to improve the upcoming session. So with this, we'll be having another Knowledge Tuesday session in another 2 weeks. And from that, we are winding up the session for this year. We are taking a break for Diwali and for Christmas. And then we'll be starting our session series from next year, from Jan 2022. We'll start all our sessions, Knowledge Tuesday, Founder Tuesday, and Ask Me Anything from Jan 2022 from January 2022. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for always attending the session. We have some good audience in all the sessions that we run. Thank you so much. Hope these sessions are insightful to you all. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Archana, for hosting this.
Thank you.